today we're talking about metabolism. Metabolism is a word that is bandied about a lot, but what does it actually mean? What affects metabolism and how can you increase yours? So stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to be finishing up by talking about what you can do to boost your metabolism and the 5 key things that really affect it. So first of all, what is metabolism? Metabolism is basically the word to describe all of the biochemical reactions that happen in our body. So our metabolism is there to help us heal, to help us grow, and to help us survive, basically. We wouldn't be here without our metabolism. The metabolism is basically when we take in nutrients and we breathe in oxygen. Those two things come together, we process them in our cells and we create fuel. So metabolism is basically the production of energy. Metabolism is what helps us to control certain things in the body. So the metabolism governs the things that we can control, like physical activity and movement, the things that we can't control, like heartbeats and wound healing, and it also governs how our cells store energy. So that brings us on to the metabolic rate. Metabolic rate is how many calories you burn at rest. So metabolic rate can be measured in terms of basal metabolic rate or resting metabolic rate. They're both the same thing, and they're basically how many calories you burn at rest. So calories are how we measure metabolic rate. Calories are just energy, it's just another word for energy, and when we're burning energy, we're burning calories. And when we're taking in energy, we're taking in calories. So what we do with those calories, there's 3 key things that we can do with them. So number 1 is that we can produce heat. Number 2 is that we can work or do physical activity. And number 3 is that we can store them. So we would store them as fat within our cells. So as you can probably understand, if those 3 mechanisms work too fast or too slowly, then problems can occur. So that brings us on to what affects your metabolic rate. So the key things that affect your metabolic rate are number 1, thyroid. If you have an underactive or an overactive thyroid, then that will make your metabolism faster or slower. So thyroid is one that a lot of people suspect they have a problem with, and if you have had a test from your doctors and they've told you that your thyroid is normal, then there is a very good chance that it might not be, because the type of test you have done at the doctors is not very comprehensive. So I would definitely recommend looking into that further if you suspect that your metabolism is not quite where it should be, which basically means maybe you're struggling to lose weight, maybe you're low on energy, and maybe your body just generally seems to be working slower. So the second thing that can affect your metabolism is how big you are. So the bigger we are, the higher our metabolism. So something that you'll find is that if you do any body analyzer measurements, as you lose weight, your metabolic rate will decrease. The third one is muscle mass. So if you have more muscle mass, then you will have a higher metabolic rate. So muscle mass, as opposed to fat mass, muscle mass is metabolically active. So that means that it needs energy to work. Whereas fat, we don't need to move energy to our fats because it doesn't help us move, it doesn't help us produce heat. So muscle is metabolically active, and so muscle burns calories. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you will burn at rest. And so building up your muscle is a really important part of boosting your metabolism. So you should be focusing on doing weight-bearing exercise, resistance training, exercises that focus on building up your muscles as a priority rather than focusing heavily on cardio or aerobic exercise. Because whilst cardio and aerobic exercise are good for you, you know, they do keep your heart healthy, they don't really do a lot for managing weight because they don't promote muscle growth. So if you want to lose weight, then you need to be focusing on building up your muscles by doing exercises that strengthen and grow muscle. The fourth thing that can affect your metabolic rate is the thermic effect of food. So this is also known as TEF, and what this is the amount of calories that are required to digest certain foods. So for example, fat has a TEF score of 0 to 3%. And what that means is that when you eat fats, to digest that food, your metabolism has to increase by 0 to 3%. For carbohydrates, it's 5 to 10%. For protein, it's 15 to 30%. So when you eat protein-rich foods, your metabolism increases by 15 to 30% just to help you digest that food and absorb that food. So that means that you should be focusing your diet on protein-rich foods that will help you to boost your metabolism, and by having protein with every meal, you'll be consistently boosting your metabolism. Having enough protein also feeds in with the previous point about building muscle mass. You need to be having about 30 grams of protein per meal to be triggering the muscle building process. So that's quite a lot of protein. To give you some idea, 2 eggs is only 12 grams of protein. So if you have an egg for breakfast, you need to be having 3 eggs or something else with it to boost the protein content. So having a look a little bit closer at your protein intake is very helpful, because it's very, very rare that I find people are meeting their protein requirements for weight loss. The final thing that affects metabolic rate is sleep deprivation and stress. So if you are not getting 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 hours sleep per night, then you are sleep deprived, and that's quality sleep that is uninterrupted. So if you're not getting that, then you are sleep deprived, and that means that your metabolism is going to be slower, and it also means that your hunger hormones will be higher as well, because your body is going to be trying to compensate for the lack of recovery and repair by getting extra energy in through food. And if you have a high stress level, if you're under a lot of pressure, if you've got a lot of stuff going on at home, then your metabolism will be slower with your stress hormones being higher. So you need to be getting some sleep, and you need to be actively doing something to relieve stress. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw today, then make sure you hit subscribe to keep seeing these videos. And you might also like my free 7-day meal plan. Lots of my clients tell me that they just feel like they could really do with following a meal plan and just seeing what a normal healthy diet looks like for a week. So that's what I've done. I've put together 7 breakfasts, lunches and dinners just to help guide you and give you some ideas and inspiration, and so that you can see what a healthy diet looks like. So that's linked below. Make sure you get that. It's completely free. I've had so much good feedback about it, so don't miss out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all real soon. Bye.